Hey YouTube. Well, I wanted to do this video because it's not something a lot of people do. But I'm a car guy, and let's go through the journey of the cars I've had. Okay, so my first car was a KE55 1980 Toyota Corolla. Very easy to Google and find out what that car is. It is actually quite desirable now, even though back then it was a pile of poop. It was not a car you wanted. It did its job. Had a 1.2 litre engine, and it was 4-speed manual. Had top speed of on a flat 140 k's, which is about 75 mile an hour, if that. Be about that. And on a downhill, about 150, so maybe 90 mile an hour, maybe. Oh, so let's say 85 mile an hour. Let's be fair. It was slow. It was like, to give you an idea of why it was slow, it was like the engine hit a wall when you went over about 130. It was like hitting a block of concrete in front of, like, it slowed down that much because the front end was so square that the engine just had no go. Once you hit a certain speed, nothing in it. Anyway, that was the car, and I thrashed the shit out of that car. I treated it well. Like, you might say, well, you just said you thrashed it. Well, I did, but I also treated it well. I looked after it. I put Penrite oil through it with the best spark plugs. I'm talking like $80 spark plugs in this thing for 4 spark plugs. This was like the extremes that I'd go to make this car run good. I swapped everything on that car with new parts. So everything basically broke on that car. Everything broke on it. I had panels that were rusted out. Like, police pulled me over one night and yellow stickered the car. Spent me $1,000 to get it over the pits. $1,000. This was back in the day when $1,000 was a lot of money. And I mean, the car wasn't even worth $1,000. So gives you an idea how much love and attention I put into that car to keep it on the road. Passed the pits, stayed on the road. Everyone kept telling me, oh, Toyota, reliable. Nah, my Toyota was rubbish. And the reason why it was rubbish is because it doesn't come down to the car or the brand. It comes down to the owner who had the car before you, and what do they treat the car like. And basically, the person who owned the car before me let it sit in the driveway for 2 years, didn't move, rusted all the engine parts, and like, literally I had to replace a sump. That's how rusted the car was. That's what it took to get that car back. Like, when you have to replace the sump, I mean, what does that tell you? So yeah, so that car was, I traded that in when I bought my next car, which I always wanted a rally car and I wanted a sports car. So, I'm thinking I want a WRX. But you know what? Having a WRX when you're 21, 22, whatever it was, I can't even remember. I think it would have been 21. So having a WRX was not a realistic option. I mean, back then we're talking like a $40,000 car. Most I could get from the bank was 20 grand. Wasn't even. And you got to ask yourself, what can you buy for 20 grand? I'm trying to think what year that would be. Oh, that was 2005. There you go. 2005. So I had the Corolla from 2002 to 2005. And in 2005, I bought a Mitsubishi Lancer. Now, everyone said, don't modify this car. Don't. Because it's not worth it. Blah, 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 blah. You know what, guys? I modified that car. And I modified the shit out of it. I'll give you an idea of the modifications I put through this car. Some people say, oh, you're not a car guy. You don't modify cars. I'll give you an idea how much money I spent. All right, so the car cost me $20,000. All right, sounds like a lot. But when you're spending, I mean, this is Australian, back in 2005, when the average family car was $45,000. All right, it's half the price of a family car. All right. Okay, to modify a car, I spent I think it was about $11,000 on that car. I'll tell you what I bought for it. I bought a cold air intake. I bought a new inlet manifold. I believe it was off the 4G93 model, if I remember correctly. Different, I think it was the 1.8. Different inlet manifold, better for performance. 2.5-inch exhaust, or 2.25. But may as well have been 2.5. It was 2.25-inch extractors, not headers. I hate headers. Don't even start saying, "Oh, headers this." Headers are shit. All right. Headers are for turbo. All right. If you want turbo, you do headers. If you want natural aspirated, you do extractors. Period. End of story. Don't want to hear discussion on it. That's it. That's it. It's not a democracy. This is Stephen Backman's channel, and I'm telling you, you don't buy headers if you're doing naturally aspirated. Period. End of discussion. That's it. So extractors, which are different than headers. Headers like they go up like that, and they form from 2 to 1, whereas 2 to 4. I guess you could say. So it's like 2, then 2, then they go to 4, then they go to 1, then they go. So that's basically talking about how many cylinders it draws from. All right. With extractors, it goes 4 to 1, which is better for naturally aspirated. All right. All right. Enough talk about it. Exhaust. So I had that. Had a performance catalytic converter, straight through pipe. Had a stage 1 cam. I was going for stage 2, but the engine didn't like stage 2 cams, so didn't do it. Alright, so no stage 2 cams. It could only handle stage 1. This was a 2-litre 4G94 motor, I think it was, I think it was a 94. It was basically the 4G64, but without all the rest of the stuff that made it a 64, so 63, 64. No, the standard 2-litre performance rally motor had all that. And it had a Haltech 1000 computer system, which cost about $1,500 on its own. It had a K-Line performance suspension kit with a strut bar across the front. It didn't have a strut bar across the rear. I think that was because the rear it was not a benefit to that vehicle, because the weight of that vehicle is very light, so it was absolutely worthless to put stiffening on the rear suspension, when obviously that was not going to, and on a front wheel drive, it was not a benefit to that vehicle. Had the throttle body was widened from 35 millimeters to 55. Had a manual throttle body. It went from an auto choke manual to the manual. So you had to adjust it with a screw. So basically, I had a lot of modifications to that vehicle, and we're looking at about $11,000. The only thing I never did was the brakes and the tyres. By the time I'd finished with the car, I never really felt that it was necessary. Car went from, get this, 65 horsepower to 135. So that was a big improvement. Although a lot of people wouldn't understand when you're talking horsepower, they'd probably be like, "Ooh, that's not very much." Got to remember, it's a naturally aspirated car. It's only a 2-litre motor, and honestly, once it got past about 120 horsepower at the wheel, it was pretty much trying to understeer into every corner, so it was no point in having extra horsepower with the tyres it had. Just had the stock tyres. Anyway, that engine ended up dropping a valve into the cylinder. Detonation. Goodbye, engine. That engine was fudged. Like, gone. Forget it. Finito. Engine dead. Dead engine. So that's what it took to destroy that engine. It basically dropped a valve after 9 years. It dropped a valve into the cylinder by unforeseen circumstances. I heard it many months before, didn't do anything about it because I didn't really pay enough attention. I should have. Didn't have a lot of money and didn't want to spend the money on the car. That's what you get. So what did I buy after that car? Oh, in 2015, I bought my Triton Ute. It was an 03 Triton with a two-wheel drive with a two-pallet alloy tray. You know, of all my cars that I had, I was the most unkind to that car, and it was the most reliable. So don't let people tell you that Triton Utes are unreliable. They are extremely reliable. Wasn't great on fuel, but it wasn't fast either. I think pretty slow. Had a 2.4 litre petrol. It wasn't like, you know, a rocket ship or anything. It was slow by car standards. But I loved that Triton. Like, honestly, if I could have kept it, I would have. Like, it was really useful, and I liked it. It was a fun car to have. Like, honestly, like, yeah, it was a good car, and except for the fact that you couldn't take it long distance. So if you drove it over long distance, you'd get a sore back, and you'd be hating that car with a passion. Like, you'd be like, oh my God, why have you got this car? I installed 2 cup holders into it, and that's all I did. Because for some reason, in Mitsubishi's infinite wisdom that they have when they're building industrial vehicles, where you're in the vehicle 8 hours a day, and I'm talking utes and vans and things where you have to drive the vehicle every day, 5 days a week, and you're in that vehicle that long, 8 hours, 40 hours a week. They don't think, oh, the person might want cup holders. They might want comfortable seats. I tell you what, if they put comfortable bucket seats and cup holders, they would outsell any Toyota, any Nissan, any Holden, Rodeo, any Ford Ranger. They would outsell them hands down, because the engine, the Mitsubishi 2.4 petrol, very reliable engine, not too bad on, like, it is bad on fuel, but for the gearbox they put in it, like, because obviously they down gear it. But I mean, for what you want it to do, which is pull heavy crap everywhere, like 1.5 tons to 2 tons of gear, yeah, it works out pretty good. So I went from had that car since I think it was 2017, or I had it for 3 years. I'm pretty sure 2 or 3 years. I had the Triton. Again, I wasn't most kind to the Triton, and that's when I bought the. Oh, sorry, I've got my dates wrong. So it was 2005 to 2015. I had the Lancer. Then 2015 to 2018, I had the Triton. So there you go. And from 2018, I've had the SS Commodore. And I mean, hands down, the SS Commodore is way faster than anything I've ever had before. Like, the speed of that car, like handling wise, acceleration, just everything about it is way faster. Like, there's no comparison. Like, to say that the Lancer was ever in its ballpark is a joke. It's like, no. That's a stock car, and that would just rape it all day long. But got to remember, with a car like that, it's just more expensive. Like, tyres for that car would be, they're for the cheapest tyres, I'm looking at $250 each. For the Lancer, you're looking at $100 each. For the Triton, you're looking at $100 each. And for the Corolla, you're looking at about $80 each. So, I mean, that gives you an idea of the scale of price difference. Obviously, everything, it's within, like, you know, within what it is. So, all I'm saying with this whole video is that they're the different cars I've had and different generations and different ideas. So what I'm planning to do is I'm not planning to get rid of the SS because Holden's dead. It's a dead company now. So that car will only go up in value at some point in time. When there's less and less Holdens on the road, that'll be worth a mint. I don't want to modify it. I like it as it is. I like the car. Is actually a really nice car to drive. Stock. You don't need to modify it. That's why I said my next car project will be a classic car or an open wheel race car, because I don't need a road car to be a performance car. I've got a performance road car. I've driven it. It's good. I like it. Yeah, my next car will have to be a practical small car, like something like a Hyundai, but that's just for fuel and, just general dashing around. Like nothing you're going to go, oh, it's a lot of money. You just go, whatever. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking. And that's honestly, that's the cars I've had, and that's why I've had them. Because, like the V8, I've always wanted a V8. From day one, I've always wanted a V8. So, there you go. I've owned a V8. Will I get rid of it? Probably not. Not if I can help it. And cars I really appreciated and liked was the Triton Ute. That was a good car, except for the fact that it didn't come with cup holders. For God's sake, or comfortable seats. For God's sake, people that design industrial vehicles, design them with cup holders, a decent radio, and comfortable seats. That's it. That's all you have to do. And when I mean comfortable seats, I mean like this lounge chair comfortable. Like, you see this? This is what we're talking about. Something you can sit in for 8 hours and not go, oh my back. Something when you get out of the vehicle, something you go, oh, I don't feel like somebody smashed my back with a sledgehammer. I feel like, oh, this was a comfortable drive for me. I mean, what the hell is wrong with you? Who designs it? A vehicle you sit in for 8 hours and puts a shitty seat in it? What the hell? Like, I'm not trying to be that guy, but come on. Use your brain. Use what you've got between your ears, please. Maybe you should sit in the car for 8 hours and then you will understand. Then you will know what people want. And you'll go, okay, so it's not power, it's not speed or anything like that. All people want is a car that they can sit in for 8 hours, got a drink holder that they can put their drink, their coffee or their coffee chill or whatever it is they're putting there, or their Dare Ice coffee or whatever, Coca-Cola, doesn't matter, and a car that they can sit in for 8 hours and go, oh, I don't get out and feel like my back has been smashed with a sledgehammer. That's all you have to do. It's not rocket science. And as for all the cars I've owned, that's why I've owned them. Okay? Peace.